not to not try not to sweat too much, man. It's hot over here.
What's your temperature at over there?
It's not. I don't know, man. Can you see me still?
Nope.
It's 83, man, but it's sunny out. And there's like no shade over the skate park, but.
And you guys got the humidity over there, right?
Yeah, it's
Wet.
not too bad. It hasn't rained, so it's not too bad.
So you skated from fifth grade till like end of high school, or you skated? When did you stop?
Yeah, it was like freshman year because I started doing football, so I stopped skating, and then I think I kind of skated on and off, a little bit, and then probably like about 6 months ago just started back up, and I've been getting into it a lot lately, man. Uh, yeah, man, it's cool, man. I feel like the older you get, I got like a different mindset, and there's like tricks that I can do, a lot easier than I could before, and yeah.
Well, you can be calmer, right? When you're like when I was a kid, I would just daydream in skating. Like when I wasn't skating, I would be like imagining doing kick flips or trying to learn this grind or
Oh
like
yeah.
all
Oh
day
yeah.
long. And I think
Yeah, me and
when I got older, it was a little bit less daydreaming and more like actually honing my physical movements rather than just imagining it all.
hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, man. Yeah, because I remember in school, dude, just sitting in the classroom, just imagining like skateboarding on across like the little thing on the bottom of the whiteboard where you put
Yep.
the erasers, and
Yep.
just thinking about it all day, man. But yeah, it's weird. It's cool, how your perspective changes like that. You don't really know how, what made it change. It's just a combination of a bunch of things, but
Getting
you just see
older.
it differently,
Yeah.
getting older, and I think martial arts had a lot to do with it too. Just skateboarding definitely helped martial arts, and like thinking of things as like, doing tricks in skateboarding. When I would learn different moves, I kind of think of it as like a trick, and that kind of helped me think of things better. And then, definitely with balance and stuff like that, doing like jujitsu and stuff. And then, yeah, just moving, man, just trying to move more, trying to stay young,
Yeah. Yeah. That
trying
was
to
a
get in your body.
that was a big thing for me coming out of the younger years. Like I'm 34 now, but when I was younger, I was always active, always playing, always moving, working, always doing something. And then I had like my dark period that I went through, and I learned meditation, and I learned the stillness and the silence as like a sort of like safe spot from all the chaos. But then at the same time, that led me into kind of like just the non-movement state, like just being. And I'm kind
Yeah.
of coming back around now after having transmuted a lot of the chaos to where I can move around and I can skate and I can play pool, play tennis, kind of like relearn. It's like relearning a little bit. Like
Yeah. And like kind of like blend it together, like kind of like bring your silence into your movement. 'Cause that's like, like that's like being in the zone.
yeah,
Like the times when you're the best at anything, it's like you're not really thinking about yourself. And the moment you start thinking about yourself, it's like
that's when
you
you
don't like
crash, right?
function. Because, yeah, it's because like there's like a person involved. But I totally get that, man. Because yeah, like I started kind of getting into like like meditation and just watching your thoughts and stuff. Probably when I got out of high school, man. Like I never really dealt with like anxiety or anything like that, and I had a really good childhood, man. I had a really good mom, and I got a lot of love. I'm really lucky, and she kind of dealt with depression a lot, and she kind of overthought things a lot, and then she passed away probably about 7 years ago.
Hmm.
And after high school, I kind of started, just starting to notice that like I get anxious and like didn't really understand why. And then kind of got into meditation and stuff like that, and yeah, it was like I feel like there was a while where it was kind of uh like I stopped doing things, yeah, because it was just like I stopped training just to kind of quiet myself down and to kind of just get a bigger picture of things. And now I'm realizing it's like, dude, like it's okay, like I can go out and do things and get in my body, and that's like where I feel most comfortable. It's like
Yeah,
when you're in your head too much, when you're in your head, you're kind of like floating off in space, and You know, like being in your body with martial arts, especially, man. Martial arts is a big thing. You
I
know,
did
you're in your
I did jujitsu. I signed up like I did it for a week. So I was in there grappling and doing rolls and stuff like that at one point, and I loved it. Like it was really it was a good experience. But I've always had shoulder injuries. I've dislocated both of them multiple
yeah,
times.
me
And if
too.
you can imagine, like, well, you know, then when you're grappling, you're thinking of arm bars and shit. You're like, oh, okay, this is exactly how my shoulder's gonna pop out, and this guy's about to do it. And you know, like you start thinking
Yeah,
about that, and it's just like
yeah,
you can't have fun anymore. You know?
yeah, yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean, man. I had arthroscopic surgery, man, on my shoulder.
Hmm.
I got really lucky, man. One of my coaches, you know, talked me up to one of the Dr. Kremchek, you know, a guy who does like a lot of the Reds baseball players, and I got me fixed up. But yeah, I dislocated 3 times, man. And third time I dislocated, I was rolling. I just went to go post my arm and just slid right out.
Hmm.
And then after that, I went and luckily got surgery and haven't had a problem with it since. But I know exactly what you're talking about, man. That stuff will get in your head, and you can't really commit because you're worried about committing, and then that is dangerous too because if you don't commit to something, you half-ass it, and that's when you like really, you know, fuck
Yeah,
yourself up.
it's weird. Like, and I did CrossFit as well for a period of time, and it was the same thing. It was like, you know, the snatch, right? You know anything about CrossFit?
Yeah, a little bit.
The snatch
Like you
is,
talk like quick pulling, like
yeah, it's like you pull the bar up like this, and then you literally drop into a squat with the bar up and behind your head. So like you're like doing this while you're
oh
squatting,
yeah,
and
yeah,
this angle for my arm is like the angle where it pops out.
yeah,
So like
yeah. Mine, I had a. What are you gonna say?
if you can imagine, like, going into that, you have, you know, 60 pounds, 100 pounds, some people do it with 200 plus pounds over your head. You're in the awkward angle, you're in the correct angle for dislocation. It's like it's impossible for you to do that without having the fear of it popping out, and it's a legitimate fear because it will pop out. And it did. I did pop it out one time during a snatch with just doing like the bar.
Yeah. Did you ever get any like X-rays or anything to see what actually went wrong with you on the inside?
I got surgeries actually on both of them, both of my
Oh,
shoulders.
so your Abram.
It was called this one was it was called an anterior dislocation. It happened in a motorcycle accident in 2005. I jumped off the motorcycle to avoid hitting a car, and hit the ground and rolled. I thought everything was fine. I didn't hit the car, but then I got up and I couldn't move my arm anymore. And I was like, oh shit, something's wrong. And then it turned out that it was dislocated. And I eventually got it popped back, but it was out for like 5 or 6 hours. So all the tendons and all the ligaments were they were holding
Mm,
in that stretched out position. So you
yeah.
can imagine when it
Oh my god.
finally popped back in, then it was all loose. You know, it took forever for it to tighten back up, and then it just started dislocating over and over in closer to the
Yeah.
other segments. So like at the end of it, I was dislocating it just like I was going up for a rebound and playing basketball, and just the shock of coming down with the ball popped my arm out. Nobody was even around me.
You- Did you have to like pop it back in like Lethal Weapon style, or did you have to go to the hospital to get it popped back in?
I started learning. One of the doctors taught me a technique where you you hold the arm and you just pull. You put pressure on it, and you just hold it. And eventually, it fatigues your shoulder muscles, which are holding your dislocated thing in place, so it doesn't get injured further. And eventually, they tire up enough, and it slides itself back in. So it's not like a violent type of thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, mine, dude. I tore my labrum from the top down to the bottom, so my shoulder kept popping out the front, and
Mm.
every time I popped it out, I had to go to the hospital to get it popped back in, man. But it's such an uncomfortable feeling having it popped out, isn't it? Just having it like
It's so awkward.
all that. Man, yeah, dude, I felt like I was gonna get sick, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, you gotta
yeah.
like calm yourself down because it's such a uncomfortable feeling.
And if you look
Joint.
at it, like your arm's all cockeyed, you know, like the
Yeah,
joint looks weird.
it,
Your
yeah,
shoulder.
like my arm was. Yeah, it's like it's sitting down lower, and there's like like your shoulder. I don't know what it is. Something sticking out like
Yep,
a
yep.
bump, man. That's nasty,
It's like
man. Yeah,
the clavicle or whatever your shoulder bone is
yeah,
called, just is poking out through the skin, and just it looks awkward, feels awkward. It's super painful, and you know you're just kind of like stuck. I didn't. I think it was probably half and half. I probably dislocated this one maybe 8 or 9 times after the initial, and half of them I had to go to ER and go through all that, and then half of them I had learned how to do it myself, or I had someone around me who I could just say, hey, like, hold my arm, hold on to it. I instructed them on how to pop it back in, and
Mm-hmm.
so I did learn how to do it.
Yeah, man, that's part of the game, man. It's part of, I guess, having a body.
Yeah, yeah. They do break.
Yeah, I've had a handful of injuries, man. Martial arts, I've had a handful of fights, man, but it was always during training. I would get hurt.
Yeah.
Man, I broke my jaw, had my jaw wired shut, dislocated my shoulder 3 times, cracked a rib, broke a toe. I think that's about it. Broken jaw sucked, man.
I've never broken a bone. Did somebody punch you? How'd you break your jaw?
Now I was actually training with somebody. He actually had a UFC fight coming up, man. One of my buddies, and we were sparring, man. And his coach was there, and it was a couple weeks before his fight. And so he was kind of, I don't know if he was nervous. He was just, trying to get ready, trying to make sure he had a good sparring session. And I wasn't going full blast, and I didn't know how the tempo was. And I had my hands up, man, and he threw a head kick, and it hit me. And I blocked it, but he hit me so hard. He hit this side of my face. I broke this jaw, and he kicked me, and I knew instantly something was wrong. I had a fight coming up too. Actually, I had to back out of one, and then I went to go do some heavy bag work. I was like, okay, guys, I'm done sparring, and I went to go do some bag work, and I could just feel my jaw just moving. I'm like, oh no, that's not good.
Were you in shock? Was it not immediately painful?
Not really. It was painful. I kind of it almost knocked me out. It was shocking, in that aspect, but the pain wasn't that bad. It got worse. But the worst thing about that whole ordeal was actually just getting the brackets they bolt these brackets in, they screw them into your jaw, your upper jaw and your lower jaw, and they're these brackets that got these little hooks on them. And then they take wires and then take the wire, they tighten them up, twist them. So your mouth is just got all this pressure on it. So when I woke up from the surgery, man, for the whole week after that, dude, if I wasn't on pain medication, dude, I was miserable, man. But I learned how to talk, I learned how to talk like this.
Yeah.
Drink milkshakes, man, and blend up all your food. Take a big old nice beautiful bowl of soup and blend it up and turn it into some nasty looking mush and drink it through a straw, man. I got a tooth missing on this side, luckily, so I can kind of get some stuff to go through there. If I didn't have that, man, I would have to just squeeze it through my teeth.
How long was it having to be wired before the bone actually mended itself?
It was a while, man. I think it was a couple months, man. And then so they had it wired, and then after the wire, I think a month and a half, maybe 2 months, I can't remember. They took the wires off, and I got some rubber bands so I could kind of open my mouth a little bit. And then after the rubber bands, I got to take those off, and then had the brackets for a week or two, and then they went to go take the brackets off. That was the worst part, man, because my gums had grown over the screws. They were Philip head screws, man. And I was like, dang, how are you gonna get to the screw? You're gonna have to cut the skin around it. He's like, no, we just take the screwdriver and just stick it in, and it'll lock through your gums, and they just pull it out through your gums, man. And they gave me this stuff. It's a spray, and it didn't do anything. So I'm sitting there sweating, oh my god. So they're giving me a shot to help me out, but
that sounds very painful. Were you bleeding all over the place?
Oh, not all over the place. I couldn't really tell because they were
sucking it all out.
They were sucking it up. Yeah, they were keeping me good, but it was just so painful, man. And I just had to those are the moments too where you got to calm yourself down, because we're animals, we have this animal aspect of ourselves, and if we we can make it a lot worse for ourselves if we are breathing too heavy or just not calm, and I had to really calm myself down because I was starting to freak out, dude, because it was I had eight screws on the top and 6 on the bottom. Wow. And after 3 of them, I'm oh my god, okay, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, it's the concept, it's the Buddhist concept of that pain is unavoidable but suffering is optional. So depending on how you handle whatever sort of painful things are happening, and whether you turn it into this mental just worry. If you turn it into worry, then you start suffering.
Yeah, it's you freak yourself out and your heart rate starts going up, and yeah, it's like not even the pain that's making you freak out. It's just like, and same thing. That's like one of the big things in martial arts, man. A lot of the reasons fighters, get tired a lot of times is because their heart rate, goes up, because it's, kind of a nerve-wracking situation.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, you're putting yourself into fight or flight, but you're not allowing yourself the flight option, right?
Yeah.
So like your body is constantly wanting to probably run away or something, but you're just like, nope, you got to stay here in the ring. You got to keep doing it.
Definitely staying calm, man, is one of the biggest things in martial arts, man, in the fight. It's definitely it's so much more mental than most people think it is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yep. So tell me a little bit about your experience with the non-ordinary life. I guess everyone is sort of. I feel like everyone is aware that there's like the regular life, and then there's what those of us who are kind of out of the regular life see now as like the regular life. The ordinary life is like science fiction. The other one is the pretend one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure, man.
Like, how did you get into that one?
I don't know. It's kind of just been my whole life, man. Like, growing up, man, I had like some experiences when I was younger. I don't really remember them too well, but like just like a lot of like really bad nightmares, man, and just would see things in my sleep and had like, I don't even know if you would call them like spiritual battles. You probably could, but to the point where I think my mom even had somebody like come to the house, man. But
an exorcist,
and just like not. I think it was something like, hold on a second. My phone's. I might have to go charge my phone, but yeah, it was something like that. But I don't think it was an exorcist. But and man, it just and I've always been I've always had like a real strong connection with God. I've always had my mom. We didn't have a lot of money and things like that growing up, and I never really knew my dad. I got a twin sister and I got a brother, and so it was a single mom. She raised all of us, and just. From those experiences I had when I was younger, I think that kind of, on a spiritual level, was like maybe when I was going through those experiences, that aspect of me that kind of saved me from those, is, that's why I've always had a strong connection, with God. And then I got older and I watched this video, man. It was like the Zeitgeist video or whatever.
Zeitgeist, yeah. Yeah.
That video kind of made me. That video was the video that really kind of made me see, like, oh gosh, like yeah, dude, like religion isn't real. But I always thought that if God, religion wasn't real, then like, what's the point of doing anything good? Like, what's the point of being a good person? And then when I really kind of started to see like religion, see it for what it is, it made me feel. It was the opposite, man. It made me feel stronger, because it made me feel like more empowered, like it was more on me, to be a good person, as opposed to like being a good person because I want to, I want to get a good prize at the end of life, or I want to get a good spot.
Exactly. It's a weird it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing where like you get turned off from it at the start, and then you come back to it, but in your own way.
Yeah. And and then I had some experiences, man. Like I said, just my whole life. And then had a couple experiences with mushrooms, man. The going through high school, man, I started having this experience like when my senior year of high school, man. I started like it's kind of weird, but like my fucking armpits like started sweating out of nowhere. Like I'd just be sitting in class and my armpits would just start sweating, man. And I didn't understand what the hell was going on. Like, I kind of did some Google, I did some research, man, and then I kind of understood it was like my nervous system, and like, the way I was like thinking about things, and that plus a lot of other things. It's kind of hard to like gather all the variables of why I went in that direction, but that plus so many other things, kind of got me into researching, like meditation, and like, wait a second, like our thoughts, like they're not really who we are, and like with the mushroom, like, so I got kind of like, I was doing that, just kind of really focusing on that aspect of life, man, just the aspect of like, you're not your thoughts. And then I had an experience with mushrooms, a couple experiences, man, where I got, to the point where, I was like about to like freak out and have a bad trip, man. And, uh, I would just like watch myself, man. And it's like, those were the times where I would like have, it was like, it's just like, that's the surrender, and like, I could
Mm-hmm.
just watch myself and, like die to the moment. And um, like, it's just those experiences, man, it's kind of hard to talk about, but,
It's like ego death, right? It's like the ACIM Jesus, the more modernized Jesus that is out there. I don't know if you've heard of that particular work or body of knowledge, but he speaks in a way that says, basically what he says is, the only thing that exists is truth, and all else is not real or illusion.
yeah,
And when you're coming to a bad trip, or you feel like a bad trip is coming, that in itself is illusion, and what stays through that, like what stays through the purifying fire of whatever fear you're going through, what remains and lives through that is the truth. Like the part of you that remains through that is the
yeah,
truth, and all of that other extraneous bullshit, fear stuff, literally, actually, physically burns away, and then you're like reborn in that sense.
right. Yeah, it was like almost like my thoughts, they kind of got away from me, and it's like, you're feeling good, and then if you take it like a bad turn, my thoughts were like speeding up, like, and
Mm-hmm.
it was like I had to like let go, and when I let go, it was almost like, like if you could imagine like being in a subway and you're like up against the wall and there's a train going by you, like it was like just like I'm sitting there just watching, like watching myself. But I'm not believing on any of my thoughts, like I'm not believing, like I can see, like nothing's like really true, you know, except like nothing you really think of is true, like in the aspect, because like our language is like really kind of like a slave language, people say, man, but like what is truth, like people, will say like truth is like, something that we all agree on, we can say it's truth, like, like, oh yeah, the tree's green, like, but like truth, if you broke it down, it's like, well, my eyes perceive, the color, like if you really like dig
Mm-hmm.
into things, but like, it's like, yeah, the truth is like who you are, man. And it's not, that's why, it's like they say like you are nothing, it's like you're no thing, it's like, they say like the same way like a knife can't cut itself and like teeth
Mm-hmm.
can't bite itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like what you really are, like can't see itself through the apparatus of like the mind, because the mind was produced by you on a higher level, you know.
Yeah.
I got this like thing. The way I think about it, man, a lot is like a tree, like an apple tree. I don't really know where I got this from, but like, like it's just a really good explanation. But like, if you could think of like an apple, like people are apples, and you're connected to a tree. So like an apple isn't just an apple. An apple didn't just pop out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a function of something bigger, So like humans are like a function of something else that we can't really perceive with our physical senses. So it's like if an apple wanted to like, the apple can see things in the apple-y sense, it can look at other apples and it can see things through the perspective of it being an apple. But if the apple was like, I want to know like what am I, what's more, you know, it's not going to be able to know that those higher, concepts through its perception or its perspective of being an apple,
Mm-hmm.
like it's going to have to like dilute or not dilute, but like kind of like, open up and like go to the more subtler, pretty much fall into the tree. And it's like, it's not going to know itself in the same sense that it knows through the mind, it's got to like feel, it's got to feel itself. And that's like a real hard concept, I think, for people to get, is that like, because we're so gross, like the world has got us so engrossed in like
Mm-hmm.
senses, like the subtler things, the subtler like intelligences, like the body and stuff like that, like are hard to like really pick up on. And it's like we're the tree, man, but it's like it's so crazy, it's like we're all the same person, like having an experience, through these different perceptions. And it's so beautiful because it makes so much sense, because it's like, like if there was, an intelligence that was just so great that we couldn't even imagine, and it wanted to learn about itself, wouldn't that be that's how it, it is playing all the parts, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a big like feedback loop kind of, and it's like we're all kind of like connected. I think, you know, at our hearts, man. Like I feel like we all have like the same heart on some level. Like we all are sharing the same being, and yeah, man. It's but that the apple on the tree, man. That's one thing I always think of. You know, it's like if you want to know yourself, you're not going to be able to know yourself through your mind. You know, like in the moments where I was like on shrooms and I was like the moments I would just feel so awesome and I would have the biggest insights and the biggest breakthroughs are the moments where I would like just stop trying to understand things with my human mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, don't even try to understand that, because you being a human, and you know, being, it's like it has its place, and your mind isn't really even supposed to go in that direction, like, because that's like not where it's meant to be, because you have all this intelligence that we're kind of like disconnected from, you know, and that's what the world, you know, does. You know, they want to pull you outside of that, because, you know, that's how you empower yourself, man. And you know, that's you know, one of the reasons why I've been trying to like eat better and you know, just trying to quiet down, you know. Well, I mean, I've had problems with that.
How often do you hear out there like the media say like your body is a temple and you are divine and you need to take care of your temple? Like how often does the media tell us that? Right? But if you look inside yourself and you actually examine what you are, you find out that's true. And not only that, but you have the option to treat your temple like shit. You can leave trash everywhere. You can pour gasoline on there and light the bitch on fire if you want to. You know, you can just pretend like, you know, it's something outside of you and not even remotely related to you. You know, you can treat your body with so much disconnect. I wouldn't even say disrespect. It's like our society has it's made us
like you're not doing it on purpose.
Yeah, it's made us disconnected from the body as divine, as sort of our spirit essence is. Like we know the spirit essence is divine, like you feel that inside of yourself, but you don't always necessarily like give that out to your own body and say like it's a unit. Like the mind is connected with the body, is connected with the emotions, is connected with the higher, with God, with, you know, the higher spiritual subtler realms. It's all connected and they all have their place. Like the body has its place. The gross human mind that just thinks in concepts has its place. But it was just taking too big of a chunk of the pie. It was like this is all it is words, you know, words define words, and that's all that life is. Like that's what our society became. And then of course that neglected all of the other elements, necessary elements of the total
it's almost like,
human
man,
experience.
Yeah, like the way I kind of think about it, man, is like, you know, you know, it's like the lack of light, you know, the lack of connectivity, you know, the lack of intelligence is what created that, you know. And it's not like it was a bad thing, you know, because it was, you know, something that made us, you know, what we are. And, you know, on a higher level, it was order, you know, because on this level, it's like, you know, we look out in the world and, you know, it's all like disorder, and we can't really understand it, you know, from our perspective.
But that idea that you were talking about before of surrendering the concept mind, that requires a burning out of the concept mind, which is ego. Like the concept mind and all of its little trinkets that it's established as self, like I am the name, I am the car, I am the house, and blah blah blah. That is just a piece of the mind. Like that's not anything. Like your car is nothing, your possessions are nothing. None of it is anything. But you take those things while you're still in that ego mind perception, which says like, you know, we are great, we're humans, we're the most powerful, we're the top of the food chain, nothing else exists that's more smart than us. Like all these idiotic thoughts that we've been imbued with by probably the master race of whoever is controlling this realm. You know, whoever's trying to make a slave race obviously did that, but once you look outside of that, excuse me, you're just free. Like you're free to be yourself and express how you wish.
Yeah, and that's like what, you know, the society, you know, kind of keeps people from even seeing, you know, because that's like the gross aspect of it, you know, because a lot of people don't even have time to, you know, and that's like an uncomfortable thing for a lot of people to start to dig into, you know, and that's why it's so much easier to go, you know, go to the bar or something, you know, or go do something to stimulate yourself or to keep yourself occupied, you know, because the status quo and like doing things that everybody else is doing, like it'll almost make you feel like you're doing the right thing, you know, unless you start, you know, having some deep, like, you know, conflicts going on where you gotta like take a look at yourself, you know. But I know a lot of people that, you know, even myself, you know, like it'll make, if you don't like, you know, get involved in what the world's doing, sometimes you feel like you're missing out, you know. But like the world's with you, man. That's like, you know, crazy thing I saw, you know, and I see, you know, it's like there's like a thought, it's like a thought dimension. It's like, you know, there's like a realm of like thought, you know, but it's not real. It's like smoke. It's like all like light and shadows and stuff. And it's like,
it's the world. It's the world. Like, okay, like that was the thing that was the thing that knocked my socks off when I first, like, you know, your mushrooms were my weed essentially. I got to weed, and it was essentially a psychedelic experience, a very negatively oriented one. But I realized, and what freaked me out, what freaks us out at first is that we are nothing. Like to come from being embodied in this flesh, you know, sort of suit, and then to be shown directly and just matter of factly, like, you're not any of this material stuff whatsoever. Like, you literally, there is no substance to you, period. There is like an energetic feeling space that like swirls and moves intelligently, but there is no matter, there is no substance, there is no nothing. So like when you the world is the fake stuff, like the world in your head, the projections out there, the thoughts back to the past, that's all that invisible, not real matter stuff. And you yourself, you are like the stillness that is infinite, like that moves in every direction, no direction, is everything, is nothing, is totally fine and perfectly calm about everything, can do anything, you know, unchangeable, all these sort of things. And then the human, like the physical, manifest, observable experience is the more fake aspect of you, but it's done in play. It's not done as like, this is a very serious thing, and prisons are over there, and here's the Bible that tells you what you can and can't do, and everybody get in line, and, you know, don't steal, and yada yada yada. Like, that part got taken way out of hand.
Yeah, man. It's like I had, you know, a couple experiences where, you know, one big one where, like, you know, I was like meditating, and it was on shrooms, man, and I haven't done them in a while because I haven't really felt like calling for them. But it was like, yeah, it was like floating around, like not like wanting to know, like, what's real, like, what am I, you know? Because you're looking in the mind for yourself, and that's what we do. We all kind of like, that's what our egos, you know, kind of are. We use things to identify ourselves, whether it be like a job title or, you know, things that you have, or, you know, whatever, man. So many different things. And it's like, I had an experience where I was like, you know, and then like I fucking like felt I felt what I was, and I didn't. It's like I knew what I was, but it's like every time my mind would tie together, it's like no. It's like oh, okay, like oh, and like so it's like in my heart, you know, it's like your mind can't even imagine or like even touch like what you really are, and that's one of the beautiful things, you know, that I sometimes forget, man. But like nobody can really even like touch you, like in a sense, like because you're like nobody really can even see you, man. You know, they see your body, which isn't really who you are, you know, in like a deep aspect. And you know, when really what people see is they see themselves, you know. It's like that's another way you can kind of tell that you're nothing, because it's like when you look out in the world and people say like, oh, you see yourself, well, it's like what do you mean? Like I don't see myself, like I'm not looking into a mirror. It's like well, you see how you feel about everything. You know, you look at, you know, if you're racist and you look at like, you know, person of color, you're gonna see, you know, you're gonna see something different than somebody who's not racist, you know, or if you know, whatever, man. So it's like you see what you are, man, and
you create that's the thing. Each individual, you create the whole thing out there, like all of it. Every single other person.
It's like co-creation, because like the physical is already here. Like the physical was created by like, you know, God, or like high intelligence nature. And it's like we're in co-creation because we use our minds, you know, with the physical, and like, you know, and
but you see what you believe. Like when you walk outside, you know, you don't see just cars hovering above the ground all of a sudden. Like your brain will be like, no, like where are the wheels at? Like obviously you're supposed to be wheels there, right? Like you see you see what makes sense to you, and you came to that. However you came to it, I don't know how you came to it. I know that like my internal understanding of how the world works, once I got myself correct, when I get myself correct internally and I feel decent internally, then the outside world is no longer a threat in any way, shape, or form. None of the government stuff matter. None of the anything matters. It's literally all just stuff moving around, people yapping at each other, and it's very simple. Like, it's just there's literally nothing is happening. It's when you get into fear mode, and then if maybe a whole bunch of people in the area get into fear mode, then you can have a war just because all the people are collectively holding the fear mode.
And it's like when you're like afraid, you kind of, I think maybe you kind of use those, you kind of go into the mind to kind of orient yourself, and the way we're kind of conditioned, our minds are kind of conditioned, in certain ways, and it's like, it's like none of it's like real. But you tell people that, man, and people don't really understand because it's a language, man. Because me and you sitting here talking, we're trying to communicate, we're using words, we're doing our best, but it's people like, you tell people that, and it's like, well, it's not real, like, can't you see how, like, okay, like, 'cause I had a buddy, man, and he was like, he's my best friend, I grew up with, my love him, but he was like totally, like, couldn't see what I was saying. Like, don't you see how, like, okay, like, you're an American, right? Like, don't you see how that you being American is just like a concept because you're in a country called America, and like that you're not really in America. That's not what you really are. He couldn't understand. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, he couldn't see it. I'm like, and I was like, I just, I don't know. I didn't really go, too much farther with that, but yeah, it's, and that's like almost like what, the whole game is, and that's like what the sleep is, but like, I really feel like on a higher level, man, all the bad stuff and all the, the negative, entities or whatever, things that try and keep us down, it's, if we can like keep, connecting with that higher, intuition and that deeper self, so we can see it for what it is. And it's just like shadows, it's aspects of ourselves, like all the nasty people in the world, like those are like the weakest. The people at the top of the world, the people that are running the show, they're like the weakest because they need they need that stuff. They need money, and they need sex, and they need pedophilia, and they need all these things to energize themselves because they're disconnected, and they're fucking mad, and they're angry, and they're vindictive, and it's like the world's upside down, and that's why I think in the Bible it says like the meek will inherit the earth, because the meek aren't like really meek; they're just open. And when you're open, you're going to be able to receive more subtle intelligences. You're going to be able to that's why I say like love is the highest intelligence, because if you can have love and start there and knowing that's the truth, and if you're having a conversation with somebody, if you guys both start in love, then you guys, you won't argue. It won't really matter, because the truth is love, and it's like it will come from that, and that's one thing. It's crazy how, and like being a martial artist, man, it's one thing I see. It's very apparent. Image, the image isn't the actuality, like people, put on an image, that's what the whole world is. And I think it's not like a bad thing, it's just what we've gone through as humans, and it's kind of how we identify ourselves. And, and like I said, it's like an evolution. It's almost like us as humans, it's like almost like a jumping off point to where we stop using the outside world to identify ourselves. It's like, what are you? It's like most people like, I'm a doctor, I'm a mother, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. But it's like, what are you really like on the inside? And you have to like use your own mind to like, like, what am I? It's like use your like you have to yourself. You have to like, and it's like, what am I? It's like I'm nothing in my mind, but like I understand that nothing isn't really nothing. Like nothing's really actually everything. It's like.
You see beyond the words, right? You see beyond the words at some point. And that's another like mind explosion when you really, really, really get what that means. Like when you really feel what it means, that the word nothing signifies. What does it signify? You see, like when you get in there and you like feel into that space, you say, okay, nothing. Yes, I have a negative connotation in my mind. I think of empty space. I think of absence of physical objects. But then when you actually like drop into your actual body, which does exist outside of words, like it's in that still space, right?
Yeah.
And then you write the word nothing inside of yourself and see how it like bounces off. Like you'll see what nothing really is. You will feel what that word is actually trying to point at, and then your mind will just go again, and you'll go further into that which we are, which it has no words whatsoever. Just it's silence, but it's we don't have any other thing
Yeah,
we can't do anything else with it, so we talk about it. You can't do anything with
yeah,
it,
yeah.
right?
It's like it's almost like just being more sensitive and subtler, like,
Hmm.
and that's why I think yeah, it's like it's and it's that's why I feel like it's good to be alone. Those times when I did the mushrooms, I was alone.
Mm.
I made it a point to be alone because I wasn't doing it for fun. I was doing it, to kind of connect on a deeper level. And yeah, it's like our bodies, man, are what's it's like our bodies is what's real. Like the physical reality, you know, it's just so crazy. But like our thoughts aren't real, but it's like our body's real. So I'm like, I had this experience where, I'm like, I had this like breakthrough. I don't know what happened, but like, I just saw how my thoughts are real. I'm looking, I'm in my kitchen. I'm just looking around like, what's going on right now? Like nothing's going on. I'm just chilling in my kitchen. Like everything that's in my head, like none of it's real, And like that's what the government tries to do. Like you ask somebody what's going on in the world today, they'll tell you what's going on in the government and stuff. And like that's not what's going on. That's not what's really happening. That's not real. It's like a blanket statement to try and like give you an idea to make you feel comfortable, and like make you feel empowered, So people think they know what's going on in the world. It's like, what's going on with you, 'cause that's what's really going on with the world.
Yeah. It literally is that it is true that nothing is going on in the world. It doesn't matter in this news stories, like when you come to a certain level, movements out there or a volcano erupting or a crowd mobbing is all the same thing. It's not distinguished from just like whatever you're normally doing. It's just like some extra noises are added in and stuff.
And it's like, yeah, anything that's going on outside of your like vicinity, like anything that's going on in your mind, it just is what it is. It's like you gotta look at it and see what it is. It's like, well, like my mind says this about that, my mind says this about that, but like that's what it is, but it's not the truth. Like sometimes my mind will say stupid things about things, and I'm like, I see it for what it is, and like, I try and stay with the truth in my heart. That's why I try not to like really have too many thoughts about people, man, or like because I know like I've had experiences where like I've seen so clearly that like that the idea of a person, is it's very like it's very so limited, man, and that's when you see things within yourself. It's like that's kind of got to be with the truth for other people, man. And like it's like I know that people aren't really people. Like it's the way my mind breaks things up because the mind, breaks reality up into pieces. That's the way it kind of understands things, and that's kind of the way we differentiate ourselves. And but it's like there's no like people if you really think about it because you create them in your mind, but like in reality, like it's like there's like the thought-based reality where it's like you can see that level of reality where there's people, I'm over here, you're over there, but like real reality, what's real, like when that goes there's going to be something else. Like that's like it's like smoke. Like your thoughts are like really like kind of like smoke, man. Like it's that's why I try and think of things in like the most simplest forms, man, like light and dark. It's almost like man, like within myself, it's like if you can imagine yourself looking towards a light and then you turn away from the light and look towards the other direction, that light is gonna like you're gonna cast a shadow, and you're gonna be looking into your own shadow, and you're gonna create. It's gonna be darkness. So darkness is lack of light, lack of knowledge. So you're not gonna know what's in the darkness. So your mind's gonna go crazy, just create all this stuff. But it's like when you look back towards the light, you can see, and it's like, what do you see? It's like you can't even explain it. It's like what you. It's like and then you turn away from the light again. And it's like you cast your own shadow, and you see into your shadow. And
which was also also created by the light, right? Like the shadow can't exist without the light any more than the light can exist. Like they need each
it's
other.
Like it's like it's not like it's a bad thing, it's like it's that's one thing I try and try to remember, is that like it's not a negative because it's all aspects of ourselves. That's when we really start kind of getting fucked up is when we push these things out of ourselves, and that's kind of what religion does. It makes you feel like God is good, devil's bad. And,
exactly.
You project onto other people, and you see demons, and you see all these things out in the world, but it's kind of like aspects of yourself.
It is, and I think a way to test this, and I've said this many times. I don't think anyone's ever actually taken me up on it, but I will challenge people if they just make blanket statements. Like my dad, my parents, for instance, they believe that, you know, being gay is wrong, being homosexual is wrong, and they will cast judgment, which ironically, like Jesus says not to do. So like that whole thing in the first place is odd to me, but they believe it's a sin, so they're like sitting there basically complaining about gay people to me, and I'm like, I'm looking around, I'm like, I don't see any gay people in this room. Like I see zero gay people. Like you guys should go find gay people and you should like actually talk to them. And if you need to cast judgment, then cast it to them while they're in front of you, and then, you know, have a discussion with them, because then it will actually become real for you. Like if you're just sitting there having a philosophical discussion about some person that you're judging because of a sexual orientation, you're not even doing it. You're not even doing the thing. You're not even doing the actual judging. Like you're doing a fake like mental judging. You need to get your ass out there to that person.
Because you're gonna see it's a real person. You're like, wait a second, he's not that bad, you know. It's like you're right, you know. Like that's why, like I say, like there's no such thing as black people. There's no such thing as white people. Like that's like a concept that, you know, like isn't real, because everybody's different. There's no, you know, like, and that's,
it's all barriers.
Like, there's no gay people. There's people, and people are different.
It's all barriers. It's all mental barriers. Your mind, if you're walking down the street and you see a person and then your thought yells some words at you, it yells, you know, homeless, it yells gay, it yells rich asshole, it yells, you know, like derelict, hobo, Democrat, Republican. If it yells any words at you, those are all blocks for you actually interacting with that person.
Exactly. Yeah, that's like the shadow, man. And it's like when you like projecting, you know, your own like shadow self onto other people. It's like parts of yourself you don't like. You don't like gay people. You know why? You know, you don't like you're afraid. You know, because our society, you know, makes you afraid, you know, gay people, you know, and so it's like, if you don't like that part of yourself, maybe you're afraid to like whatever, you know, you're gonna hate gay people because you're like afraid. It's like, what are you afraid that you're gonna like turn gay or something, or people like rub off on you or something?
It's like what you're still judging, you externalize as like a problem. That's what humans do. Whatever they still judge internally, that literally externalizes in the world. So if my parents are judging gay people, they are externalizing the fact of gay people walking around, and it reinforces, it makes they make their own world by doing that. Like by judging people, you put them out there, the labels are out there, and you don't interact with the actual like spiritual being anymore.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back. You froze for a second.
Yeah, what'd you say?
I was just saying, like, the things that you're judging and holding, like, you externalize, and they become, you externalize them as problems. Like when I'm good inside, I don't have any problems, period. I mean, zero, no nothing. Doesn't matter. Nothing that happens out there matters. Nothing matters, period. Like my life is flowing and doing what it's supposed to. But then if I get a fear or a judgment, I literally create a problem. Now, I'm not saying that person out there, that physical being, didn't exist before I did or did not create the problem. I'm saying like I put that worldview out on top of what exists out there already, and then it caused me angst inside now. You're freezing up a little bit still. I think we have too many streams going on. You still there, Steven?
Thanks. Yeah, certainly. Thank you. I don't know if I'm going to show them.
No, I think it looks like Zoom booted me. That might. No, but it didn't even ask. It's doing what it wants. Uh-huh. Too much people being real. All in one place. All the electronic
I'm
stuff.
getting very low here. I'm getting very low
Uh-huh.
there.
Hold on one sec. You can keep streaming if my hotspot works for you. Go to your internet. Your settings on your computer. Just look for a network. No, it doesn't. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I've never had problems with using this. I've done shows with it many times. I'm not doing it anymore.
You done?
Yeah, it was an hour. I'm texting him, just letting him know when it cut out. Now we got an hour, and so we're good. He's like, damn, that was an hour.
I think everything was filled up. It's probably gonna be
The internet is not working.
fine.
The house internet is not.
It says
I know, but something happened. Just click on iPhone. You can use mine. It's fine.
Maybe we should just give it a rest.
Do you have people on there? You can give it a rest. I need to give myself a rest anyway.